feedback from fans, and
on Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole primetime on Nick was huge. I mean, I think that people who hated him now like him more, or, whatever it is. I think it was a little easier. I mean, it helped to kind of figure him out a little bit.
Those answers to his questions to the fans, where they were just like, that's what it means, and they really, yeah. Do you think that kind of resonates with people in an odd sort of way, because it's so bizarre that,
But you know what? Any of the guys who come from the boxing world, you meet guys like that sometimes. Diaz isn't, he's made it very clear. He's not here to hang out and make any friends. He's not looking to, have any barbecues over at his house with anybody from the MMA world. He's here to fight. That's it. It's pretty, I'm cool with that. Just you got to show up to press conferences and do the stuff. And now he's doing all the stuff that needs to be done. So I'm cool with it.
Were there any concerns or nerves at all coming in that wasn't going to happen, or did the BJ Penn fight
It's been, well, wait till you see the last episode of Primetime. I mean, it's, there's no doubt that as the week of the fight comes, he changes. And he becomes the Nick Diaz that we're used to seeing.
Do you think you're starting to get him?
What?
Do you think you're starting to get him at all?
Yeah, I get him. I always got him. I always understood how he was or whatever, but you can't not come to press conference.
Speaking of not going to press conference, why didn't you go last week?
Which one?
After the
Yeah, I wasn't in the mood.
So let's hear
I can not go if I don't want to.
So
I'm kidding. Dude, I've been to 10 years. I haven't missed one fight, and I'm usually at every. I usually try to skip press conferences where I know I'm gonna.
Well, don't you think
get hammered. Not get hammered, but
it's your first.
get.
That was your first official Fox show.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts were important on how that show went and where guys were going.
Yeah, I know.
Can we hear him now?
It meant what it meant.
Are you sunburned right now? You've been on a vacation.
No, it was sunny out the last 2 days, and I'm white as hell.
Hey, Dana.
Do you miss GSP at all in terms of the ticket sales and what he does for bringing fans into the season?
Yeah, well, GSP is a monster, man. I say it all the time. He's the pay-per-view king of this sport, and it hurts without him. But this is what we do. We put guys like Condit and Diaz. Nobody knew GSP at one time either. You have to build guys.
And not to belabor the UFC on Fox, though, but were you just disappointed overall with things? We've seen ratings now that were down a little, but pretty good for the time.
Ratings were awesome. They're pumped with the ratings. I'm happy with the ratings. No, it was good. It was good.
Well, you said last week, by the way, before the fight, that Diaz and Miller would not be the main event. Now you would not be the main event. Would you?
Yeah, because Joe Silva and I got together, and as we started to build the card, we changed our mind on what we wanted to do. We did make that the main event, and have we announced the other two fights yet?
Lamar Johnson and Pat Barry was announced late last night.
It was?
Yeah.
Now, Dana,
There's one more coming.
Can you?
There's one more coming. Huh?
Announce that?
It's not done yet.
Can you comment on the depth, or I guess the change in the welterweight division? You've seen Fitch get knocked out and Shields get knocked out. Who do you see right now as, in your words, in the mix?
Well, these two right here. This fight's got to happen, and then we got to crown the welterweight champion. And then, in the time that this fight happens, and in the time that the actual championship fight happens between the two champions, there's going to be a lot of fallout. I'm sure a lot of things are going to happen between now and then.
Is Verdum and Nelson, is that for a #1 contendership for the Overeem?
We'll see what happens. I haven't even thought of that at all. We'll see how that fight goes down and what happens.
With Johnson and Barry, obviously that's not two of your biggest stars, but it looks like a fight it's pretty much guaranteed to leave fireworks. Can we talk about what the theory is?
Well, the funny thing about that is the chatter that you get about fights. First of all, there was so much hype for that fight. Sonnen versus Bisping, the Maia fight, and even after he changed, people were like, it's even more exciting now. And then after, everybody's like, oh, they set themselves up for these boring fights. Shut up. People who come out after and say, oh, we knew this, you're a liar. You're a liar, you're an idiot, and you sound like an idiot when you say that. These fights all looked exciting. You just never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen on any given night. You can have, 3 fights go to decisions, or you can put on a fight that you think is going to go longer and it lasts 60 seconds. It's fighting. You know, what we're dealing with now is figuring out, the hardest part of this whole thing is figuring out production. How many fights can you schedule with the commercial load that you got and all the other things that you have to do? You know, we got this thing, we did a pretty good job in getting this thing dialed in after that first fight, going 60 seconds and now figuring out, and I think as this thing evolves, it's going to be more about fighting. You got to understand too, Fox has a system that they used to with sports where it's like, you come into the big desk and here we go and we're going to do this and that. What people are used to with the UFC is Goldie and Rogan are on camera for 2 seconds going, here's what's going to happen, we get right into fights. And then you end up getting 40 fights in an hour, you know what I mean? So we'll get it.
Do you think there's some give and take there? Maybe that'll
Yeah, no doubt.
What about Maya's performance like this? You know, that was an embarrassment. I thought that he gassed out the way he did. Why he might have had an excuse. Did you talk to Denny? Was there an injury or anything that would explain why he...
You know, I hear after that he was sick leading up to the fight, but you always hear that stuff after fights. I mean, when guys put on less than stellar performances is when you hear all the stuff about what's going on.
Isn't it one thing to get the shit kicked out of you, but a total different thing to, you know, basically fail like he did. You know, he was out of shape, and the other guy would have had more of an excuse to be that way than he did.
Right.
He was training right, so he should theoretically have been training.
I agree.
Dana, well,
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So let's not do at least make your feelings a little bit more about the future of a guy. You have a situation where the UFC falls out 11 days before. You move the card around, so a guy fighting on short notice. I don't know in this case, the guy on short notice actually won the fight. Right. Just a lot of people watching won't realize that the guy who lets him win, and that's why it was great.
So what? It's all part of the growing pains of the sport. Let me tell you what. When we started on Spike TV, everybody's acting like every fight we've ever had on Spike TV was the greatest fight you've ever seen in your life. The fight business is, you know, we were on that streak has been broken, but we were on that streak that I kept talking about. 14, 15, 16 fights in a row that were just awesome fights. And you're going to have some fights that you're going to turn off the TV and go, wasn't the greatest fight I've ever seen. Would I have turned off the show the other night and said that sucked? No, it didn't suck. The Bisping Chael Sonnen fight was awesome, you know, and Bisping was a 5-1 underdog, which was ridiculous in the first place, but tight. Yeah, we moved the Montreal date. We never had a solid date. There's still, we were talking about moving Atlanta too, and now Atlanta's back on again. You know, we lay out our schedule for the year of the places that we think we're going to go, but sometimes we change our mind and make some moves. We moved Montreal, and we tried to get another date for Montreal, but the arena is booked that day because there's so much hockey up there. So we're working on it now. But yes, we are coming to Montreal. It's just now figuring out the date.